We are rolling on the podcast.
Hello,
Um,
Biggie.
Hello, Lachi. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
Never better, my friend. Just today, we're going to have a run through three of the groups of the six in for the upcoming Euro 2020. Really exciting stuff. Definitely the most competitive Euros of my lifetime in terms of even the bookies can't sort it out. You have England and France, I believe, joint favourites now at about 5-1. Um, Going out to Holland at about 12-1. There's 9 teams in between. So, yeah, there's not much in it. So, very exciting. We're going to do this as succinctly as possible, try to give as much coverage to as many teams as we can. And Mr. Lunchtime, we're going to start very strangely with Group E or F. The choice is yours.
I suppose we start with Group E, will we?
Sounds
Spain, Poland, Sweden, and Slovakia. The big thing for me in this group is Spain play all 3 games in Seville, which is massive. It's like a mini home tournament for them before they move on to the last 16 stage. Their home form is unbelievable. They literally, very rare they lose at home. They're in good form and they're big under the radar for this tournament. Usually you'd hear everybody going into any tournament talk about Spain this, Spain that, they've this, they've that. But I don't think anybody recognises much of their players anymore. There's nobody from Real Madrid in the squad, which is very weird. He's left Ramos out. But it's very interesting to see who he plays at the back, especially now with no Ramos. He has Laporte after switching from France to Spain. I imagine he's going to play because of that. And then he has good choice at left back. He has Goya that plays, I think it's Valencia, and Jordi Alba. Presume, being an ex-Barca man and having managed Jordi Alba when he was at Barca, that he'll choose Jordi Alba. He knows what he'll get from him, consistent. And they have the excellent Pau Torres then, who is linked with everyone in Europe. He's only 21. He plays for Villarreal. Every big club in Europe has been linked with him. He was very impressive last week against United as well. So all is good for Spain. They've lost once in their last 23 games. That was last October against Ukraine in the Nations League. But they topped that group anyways, and it contained Germany, Ukraine, and Switzerland. They scored 13 goals en route in 6 games, just conceded 3, which tells you how strong they are, really. That wasn't the easiest of groups.
Ramos feeling very hard done by being dropped after being part of a defence that only conceded 3 goals in such a difficult group.
Yeah, definitely. But he has been dogged with injuries all season, and with coronavirus and all that, you can't really be bringing injured lads to a tournament. It just doesn't make sense to do it. You need lads who can play the 7 games, and that's what he's decided. So that's what they're going with, and I think they're going to be dangerous. They're very strong in the middle as well, in the centre of the field. Like they have Koke and all these sort of lads from just won the league with Atletico Madrid. They have Thiago from Liverpool, they have Rodri from Man City, they still have Busquets.
Marcos Llorente from
15 league. They actually play. Sorry, Biggie, go on.
Yeah, Marcos Llorente, Atletico won the league, 15 league goals this season. Their player of the year. He's a serious asset to this Spain team, and he wouldn't have been in their consideration possibly. Mendy as well for Sociedad's had another good year. Former Madrid man.
But they actually play Llorente as a right wing back. They switch between him and Adama Traore from Wolves, who he loves. They choose between the two of them for the right wing back position. And then up front, they're kind of stacked. I know Morata is a bit of a joke figure to anyone who watches English football, but his record is very, very good for Spain. He has, I can't remember off the top of my head now, but he has 19 and 40 games for Spain or something. They also have Moreno. He played for Villarreal this year. He scored 30 goals. They have Ferran Torres, who he likes, the Man City player. He has scored 6 goals in his first 10 internationals. So they're quite stacked. They also have Dani Olmo from Leipzig on the right wing, another attacking player. So they're not as maybe weak as everybody thinks they are. And they have a nice group. They'll sail through that. They might be able to rest lads for the last game against Slovakia. And then they'll be all set for the last 16 game.
What are you looking for in terms of what players do you think might stand out that people mightn't know from just sort of normal Premier League soccer fans wouldn't know? And also, what bets do you think are value when it comes to Spain?
I don't know. I'm kind of humming between themselves and Italy for winning the tournament. I genuinely think they're around 8-1. I think they're going to go deep. They play third, one of the best placed third teams in the last 16. Like, that's kind of a handy first 4 games when you look at some of the other teams' fixtures. We'll touch on that later. Like, when you're getting a nice run like that through. Now, everything obviously won't go plain sailing, but I think they could sneak through quite under the radar and get to a quarter final. And obviously, if they get that far, they'll be very hard to beat from there on. Now that's when they'll start meeting the big boys, and that will really show what they're about. But they have a good chance to build up a bit of confidence, get 4 wins under the belt coming into that. No real tough matches, right? They have a few, like Poland aren't bad, Sweden aren't bad, but they're not, in comparison to some of the other groups, they're not the toughest games you can get in the group stage, especially when you're playing 3 games at home. So, yeah, I actually think if he plays Moreno, they're playing Portugal tomorrow night in a friendly game. I'm very interested to see the team. If he plays Moreno up front, I'd be very interested in him at 50-1 to be the top goal scorer in the competition with 5 places available. I just think he would have, if he's starting up front for Spain, he's a goal scorer, he's in great form. Within 4 games, he could, like, it's not beyond possibilities, he could have 4 or 5 goals before quarter final. We all know that's enough to win you the Golden Boot. So yeah, that'd be one for me now with them.
Jared Moreno, I like it, especially at that price. But again, we're gonna have to see if he starts up front because
Yeah,
he should on form certainly for the Yellow Submarine this year under Emery. He was an absolute revelation. He was fantastic. He's a good few years in the squad now, and hopefully we'll get his chance. I really like. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do in their midfield because such creative talent like Dani Olmo of Leipzig and Ferran Torres and how they're going to deploy it. But as you said, I think a big thing in this tournament that people have to watch before they bet is the fixtures. And the fixtures in terms of Spain are playing 3 at home. They'll likely win their first 2 or at least get 4 points from their first 2. That's them qualified. After that, they can play a second team against Slovakia, who are super weak in this tournament, and then get into what could be or what should be a very handy last 16 game. So Spain really won't have to exhaust themselves to get into their quarterfinal, I think. And that's why you said you got them at 8-1. Another thing for our listeners, definitely shop around on price. I've seen Spain at 11-1. I've seen them at 8-1. But if you're going to put on a nice bet for a winner of this tournament, definitely do your homework first. Mr. Lunchtime, let's zip through the other 3 teams in the group. What stands out for you about Sweden?
Sweden. They nearly always turn up at these big tournaments, don't they? Their team is backboned by the Euro Under-21 team that won the 2015 tournament. Coached there since 2016, so they're very stable. Now they have a very good record against kind of the second-tier teams. You know, teams around the same level as your Poland, your Switzerlands, them sort of countries. Austria's, you know, the kind of middle tier, the teams that are usually second seeds for qualifying tournaments. They struggle though against the big boys, like between September and November, for example, last year they lost to France, Portugal, Croatia, Portugal again, Denmark. They scored 1 goal in them 5 games, so I don't know where the goals are going to come from. The big thing was Ibrahimovic came out of retirement, but he hasn't been included in the squad.
I think that's saying a lot because this Swedish squad is cohesive, and what has helped them massively is the form of Alexander Isak for here, the 21-year-old gangling forward. How many goals does he have? 17 in the league, in La Liga, I'd guess.
17 exactly in La Liga this season for Sociedad, yeah. And they have Marcus Berg beside him, who has 23 goals in 85 internationals. It's not a bad record.
Isn't he at Krasnodar?
Yeah, he's a good player, and they have a few more good players like Emil Forsberg there from Leipzig, and Seb Larsson is still playing.
Robert Pisson for Mainz is exciting. Yes. He's very, very quick. So I think they have goals where they didn't before.
Yeah, but the only thing that worries me about them is that little run last year when they played the top teams. They really struggled. I think it just shows their limitations.
Where else in the squad do you think is limited?
They're okay. The goalkeeper is the reserve goalkeeper. I think it's Everton. Like they have your man from Man United, Lindelof, and Pontus Janssen from Brentford as centre halves. Emil Kraft from Newcastle doesn't really play that much. They're always solid, like, and hard to break down. I can see them scraping out of the group. I wouldn't see them going much further than that. I think they'll get third in the group.
And bets wise, what are we looking at? I love Emil Forsberg, by the way. Watching him for Leipzig, he is a class act playing number 10, sort of dropping off the front two. He maybe him to be their top scorer.
I actually have Isak, the Sociedad guy, at 5-2 to be their top goal scorer, which is quite a good bet, I think. He also takes penalties, which is massive.
Do you finished third in the penalty-laden tournament, or how do you think they're going to ref it?
It's hard to know. If you go by the World Cup last time, every second game had a penalty in it. Most games had actually 2 in the group stages, especially. So it's very hard to know what way they interpret the handball rule with VAR in play and all that. It's very hard to know. I can see international football, there does be a lot of penalties. You have a lot of teams sitting back and inviting trouble.
Yeah.
And that leads to, especially the bigger teams get penalties. I don't think it really matters to smaller teams trying to work a penalty. I'm not saying teams try to work penalties, but it's definitely something that has to be in consideration when you're doing top goal scorers. Penalty takers have to be at the top of the list, because you'd imagine every team will, in 3 games, they probably will get 1 penalty if you go by recent years on how things have gone. One bet I like with Sweden is to finish third in the group. They're 17-10, and I think they'll beat Slovakia, which will get them 3 points. It might be enough to get them out as one of the 4 best third place teams, and then to be eliminated in the round of 16, they're 11-8. They'll be meeting one of the big boys in Italy or Belgium or something, and that'll be the end of them. So I can see them get to the last 16, possibly in third place in the group. That'll be the end of Sweden for me. I don't know how you feel about it, but that'll be my.
I can keep Slovakia, maybe, but that might be it. I don't know if they'll have enough to qualify. I'm really, really worried about their keeper situation. If I were a Swede, like their goalie and at the back, they're pretty poor. But they do play a seriously compact brand of football, which kind of makes it hard for teams to score on them.
Now, one thing though about this Euros, I was in the last one as well, is people forget that 3 teams come out of 4 of the 6 groups. So 1 win will more than likely see you through, unless you get a hammering in one of the games. If you get a 1 win and 2 1-0 defeats or a 2-1 defeat, your goal difference will be fine. You'll more than likely get out, because you're going to have at least one group where the 2 bottom teams will draw with each other, and they'll end up on 1 point, and they'll lose the 2 top teams in the group. And so I can see 3 teams coming out of that group, possibly just because Slovakia, I just don't rate Slovakia. So I think they're making up the numbers here. So I think Sweden and Poland will have too much for them. Obviously Spain will. So I think the 3 points could get you out of this group. That'll be my view on it anyways.
Let's because I think UEFA bollocked this up completely by not having one whole city. You're not given, like, for example, when we were in Poland in 2012, just an incredible chance for the Poles to show off everything they're about, and it was an extraordinary host country, and Gdansk, Poznan were incredible cities. They were so good to us, and splitting this across Europe. And the second thing I absolutely hate about this Euros, why increase the number of teams? If you get 1 draw and you go through as a third place team, or 1 win and 2 losses, you don't deserve to be in the next round of the Euros. The Euros is for the best selection of 20 to 24 teams in Europe. It's not everybody's in, and let's give everybody a go and play it in Azerbaijan, well, if they do want to play it in Azerbaijan, then at least make it a consolidated tournament in one place, because it's so unfair on the fans. Because at least the fans can plan. The fans can't plan for this. Okay, it'll be spread across Europe and different fan groups will get to see it, but just a cash grab by UEFA. Anyway, that's my rant over. So let's fly through Poland. Maybe we won't mention Lewandowski because everybody knows about him, but
the big thing with Poland is they've changed their coach in January. So the coach that they qualified under, Jersey, I can't say second name, Szczeciak achieved qualification and they sacked him, and they've put Paulo Sousa in charge. So it's hard to know with them. They were on an awful run of form, in fairness, when they sacked him. Probably a good thing for them the Euros weren't played last year, if their recent form's anything to go by. Like, they've lost to Italy, Holland, England, drawn with Hungary, a 2-0 win over Ukraine and Bosnia, but again, struggling against the top teams. They have a choice in goals. They have Szczesny from Juventus, former Arsenal man, another former Arsenal man, Fabianski, who's had a good season with West Ham, so they're solid there. Glick, he's been around for years. He's 33. He marshals the defence. Southampton's Jan Bednarak is beside him. He's another big, strong partner. So they will be solid enough. But they're kind of the same team they have been going into tournaments a lot. Like Zelinski there in midfield from Napoli. They've Click from Leeds.
Is he still
a lad from Derby County, you know. But they have goals, like, obviously we won't mention Lewandowski, but like they have Piatek, who you know well from the Bundesliga, Kunnel, and Milik. So they have, between them, I think they have 30 international goals. So if they can supply the three up top, they'd have a chance. They're solid enough at the back. They won't be trouble in Spain. I can see them getting 2 wins and progressing to a last 16.
Yeah, I could certainly see them getting a win and a draw. It's kind of unfortunate that they have Piatek, Arkadiusz Milik, and Lewandowski, who are just, like, Lewandowski is obviously world class, and then the other two are kind of slightly lesser clones of him, but they're all the same sort of striker. So it is, they rarely play two together, but I think maybe they should. But it's likely that they'll still play their same formation of 4-5-1, Lewandowski being the man. And then after the group stage, Mr. Lunchtime, do you see them having any hope of getting quarters, semis?
I don't really, Biggie. I can't remember who they played. If they finished second in the group, I think they possibly played second in England's group, which would probably be Croatia. You'll talk about that later. So yeah, I suppose they'd fancy that. And then it's onto that, they're coming back around to another top team again. So they'd be happy. A quarterfinal would be a good appearance for them. I think the best bet available on them is short, but it's 13-8 to be second in the group. If anyone's doing a little Euros accumulator, I think it'll give you a good run for your money.
And do you like them ahead of the Swedes?
I'd have them ahead of the Swedes, yeah. I would. Yeah, they start off with Slovakia first as well, which is a big one. You get the 3 points on the board, puts the pressure on Sweden then to catch them. So like
Slovakia's, do you see Slovakia as possibly the weakest team in the tournament here?
I 100% do, and I think the best bet in the whole tournament is actually to be found in Slovakia as well. They're 6-1 to be the lowest scoring team in the tournament, and I think that is the best bet I've found anywhere in this tournament. They have Skinner, who plays centre half for Inter Milan. They won the league. At the back, but they're an old, aging team. Hamsik in the middle of the pitch used to be a great player, was touted by everybody in Europe at one stage of his career. He's now playing for Gothenburg. He's 33. Tells you how much his stock has fallen. I watched them. They actually beat Ireland on penalties was it November or October in the semi-final to qualify for this tournament, and Ireland played them off the pitch. That tells you all you need to know about them. The game finished 0-0, so obviously due to Ireland not being able to score. They then went and beat the Northern Ireland in the final qualifying game for this after extra time. Again, they were played off the pitch, hit 2 goals on the break. They've started well enough to give them their due in the World Cup qualifying campaign. They beat Russia, but again, you see, then they drew 2-2 with Malta and 0-0 with Cyprus in the World Cup qualifiers. They drew 1-1 with Bulgaria the other night in a friendly game. They're just not for me. They're up top. The Duda plays for Cologne. They were in the relegation battle this year in Germany. He scored 7 goals or something this season. He's 5 international goals in 50 games. I think they're just coming up against three better teams, and I genuinely can't even see where they're going to score, because the fact that Sweden and Poland are quite solid at the back, and they will have most of the ball against them. I just can't see, unless they get a few lucky counter-attacks. But for me, they're the worst team in the tournament, and they're going to be the lowest scoring team, and that 6-1, I think, is, and you'll be collecting that after, 12 days of the tournament if you're back, in my view.
Yeah, 6-1, lowest scoring team. Just will give us a little positive of them at the end. Their keeper, Lucas Hardecki for Leverkusen, starting in the Bundesliga for the last couple of years. Decent shot stopper, good keeper. Martin Skriniar, as you mentioned, looks to be their class act completely. Inter Milan's centre half. So let's fire ahead. I think we'll have a look at Group A.
We'll look at Group A. Yeah, you're going to take that one, are you?
I will.
What are your thoughts on Group A?
Well, first of all, we Italy are Hunchtime's pick at between 14-1 and 10-1 to win the championship. I don't want to give odds because they're changing rapidly. Italy, when I wrote them up on site, the articles on hunchtime.com, they were 14-1. They changed to 12 while I was writing it, and now I see they're at 10 in most places. So people are copping on. Why do we like Italy? Gianpiero Ventura was sacked 3.5 years ago. Roberto Mancini came in. Roberto Mancini has not lost a game in 3.5 years as their coach. Mancini, his record is absolutely phenomenal as a coach at club level, particularly in cup competitions. So what did he do? Basically, he threw out a lot of the old guard. He brought in players that between 20 and 23 years old that he knew would be with him for a long time. He played almost 70 players. He played more players than any manager in his first 3 years as Italy coach. They've scored more goals than any other Italy team in history in his period in management. So there's an awful lot to like. What he has done, which is kind of cool, is the new keeper came in, Gianluigi Donnarumma. Donnarumma's only 22, but he's been playing for 6 years at an adult level. Possibly one of the most expensive keepers in the world now. Serie A's team of the season last year. He was fantastic. He's an absolute giant. He looks like a baby giant, kind of like Erling Haaland, where they haven't fully grown up yet. They still have that puppy fat, but he's a super keeper. And he's going to lead them from the back, really. He's possibly their star man. In front of them, they still have Chiellini and Bonucci. They've got a lot of cobwebs on both of them, but they've been around the block. And as international defenders, it doesn't get more experience than that partnership. Pace-wise, it could be very scary for them, though, if they play the likes of France in a final, which I could see happening. Wingbacks, Florenzi he's a live wire for PSG. Emerson as well. The Chelsea loanee is another nice addition. The centre of their midfield, Jorginho and Marco Verratti. Verratti is their star man. He's going to be box to box running the show. If he can stay fit, Verratti has had trouble with injuries for the last couple of years, which has stopped him being the sort of one of the premier centre midfielders in the world.
And he's had problems with discipline as well. Don't forget that. He is very prone to a yellow card. You could see him getting a suspension at some stage throughout the tournament, especially if things go against them. We've seen him with PSG numerous occasions now, chasing refs, getting sent off, getting stupid yellow cards. So that would be a little worry for me. I do like them as well, though, but that would be a little worry for me, because I think if he goes, they will severely miss him. But go on, continue. Apologies.
With that, they have, should Verratti not talk with his hands and talk with his mouth and start pissing off referees, as he often does, Manuel Lucatelli, Sassuolo, has been absolutely brilliant this year. 23, just dipping the toe in the water of international football, but really good. Nicolo Barella for Inter. Remember that name. He's valued at 50 million. He's centre midfield as well. So they have 4 pretty much international class midfielders, centre midfielders. So he's going to play a 4-3-3. And up top, I imagine he'll go Chiesa, Bernardi, or Immobile. And then possibly Belotti or Bernardeschi. He's picked kind of 6 strikers or attackers. He's also picked actually, let's not go too much into detail. He's picked a kid from Sassuolo as well, Raspadori, who's not going to play. But yeah, so he's mixed up his strikers really well. But Italy won this tournament, won the World Cup in 2012 by
26.
Oh, sorry, yeah, do that. I apologize. Yeah, but Italy have won major tournaments before with strikers only scoring 2 goals, and in that tournament, Luca Toni scored 2 goals in 1 game. So Italy are well used to, you know, they're well used to getting by with low scoring games. This Italy team, I can see them in this group: Switzerland, Turkey, and Wales. I can see them getting 5 points in qualifying. They play their first game at home against the Turks, against a really good Turkey team, possibly a draw there, and then I can see them beating Wales and drawing with Switzerland. Looking okay. Like in the World Cup qualifying group, they conceded 3 goals in the whole thing so far. In their first 3 games, they haven't conceded.
They have all 3 games in a row.
They do. That's a massive advantage for Italy. I think in terms of bets, you cannot go wrong if you're getting 10-1 or better on Italy to win the tournament. They are the form international team in the world at the moment. They are lacking the sort of stars, but I think in terms of coach, they're one of the best international coaches there is. They are complete and utter grinders. They could make it look ugly as hell and still win games 1-2, 3-0. But also under Mancini, they've scored more than any other Italian team, so they can grind it out. They can win in a couple of different ways. A lot of different options up front. I didn't even mention Lorenzo Insigne for Napoli, possibly come off the bench as a speedy option. But yeah, they are definitely my favourites. Anything to add on Italy?
Yeah, just the one thing that stands out for me on Italy, I know I've talked about it with Spain, is the 3 home games, and then in the draw's been kind to them. In the last 16, they placed second in Group C, which we'll talk about again. But that's more than likely going to be Ukraine or Austria, which is not the worst last 16 game. And then in a quarterfinal, they'd be looking at maybe a Croatia, Poland, or Sweden. So again, like Spain earlier, they can reach a semi-final without playing a top-tier team, which is very rare in such a tournament with 9 kind of top teams.
It sounds like England in the World Cup. That sort of, it should things shake out. Obviously, that they never do the way you think, but it sounds like England's run when Southgate managed to bring them to when they kind of fell into a semi-final against that Croatia team. You think Italy might do the same in dodging?
Yeah, I think they're destined for a semi-final. I think that draw couldn't have been much kinder. Some 3 home games, they'll come out of the group easily enough. They'll brush aside Austria or Ukraine, most likely Ukraine, and they will beat a Croatia or Poland. I can see them definitely being in a semi-final, and for that reason alone, can you see any of the other teams being definite semi-finalists? So, you're guaranteed to get that. If you're not guaranteed, but they're most likely.
For that value, if you took them at their 12-1 to get to a semi-final, you certainly couldn't say the same about England, who might have a nastier route, and they're 5-1. And France's group, they might need to qualify from. Realistically, they probably will, but they still have to play Germany and Portugal and a really inspired Hungary team. So they're 5-1. Italy, you're getting at 12s. Take your Italy, for sure. But yeah, that's the hometown pick. So Italy's first game, they play Turkey. This Turkish side under Şenol Güneş he was the manager in 2002 when Hakan Şükür and the boys, Rustu Rekbar, shocked the world and got to a World Cup semi-final. They came third, I believe, 2002. And that was in Saipan. So Güneş has said this is his best team since then, which wouldn't be hard because Turkey fell off the map completely. He said some really weird shit this week. He said that Turkey only have 17 players playing in the top leagues in Europe, and the likes of Serbia have 700 playing in the top leagues in Europe. I just read that in an article with the Athletic beforehand, and I find it really hard to believe that Turkey only have 17 players playing in Europe. That seems bizarre. Possibly. Anyway, let's go on.
I have no idea.
What Turkey do well? At the back, their oldest player is Soyuncu, Leicester's superstar beast at centre back. He's one of their leaders at centre back. Beside him, they'll probably play Demirel from Juventus, who's only 23. He's an absolute monster as well. These Soyuncu and Demirel, when they play together, remind me a little bit of kind of the Cannavaro, Materazzi, Maldini, Nesta, where they're the old school defenders, where they're celebrating and fist pumping when they make a sliding tackle or something like that. So I absolutely love the way Turkey defend. On the bench, they will have the Liverpool centre half. Is it Kabak, the guy they bought from Schalke?
Yeah.
So he's a nice bit of cover there. Right back, Mehmet Çetin from Lille. They have 3 Lille players who won the league, won Liga, who are really on top form. Centre midfield, their unsung hero, Yukuşlu. West Brom fans will remember. He had a little season loan there. He anchors their midfield. And then Tufan from, he's a pocket dynamo. I watched the game against Norway a couple of months ago live, and he scored 2 screamers. He's going to be box to box, providing all the energy. They have another Lille man in Yaziki on the wing. He has 4 goals and 7 goals and 4 assists this season. Really, really good creative player. They can play him or Şejin Under from Leicester. And then Hakan Çalhanoğlu is the main man. AC Milan, 4 goals, 9 assists this year. Up front, Burak Yilmaz, the evergreen, 30, I think he's 35 actually. He's also, he won the league for Lille this year, 16 goals, 5 assists in Ligue 1. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is Turkey's strength, they're very good at the back and they can score goals. Their weakness, keeper, they look quite weak, to be honest. Kassir for Trabzonspor will probably be in goal. I've seen him a couple of times, highlights and live. Wouldn't inspire any sort of faith in him. But again, they let me give it a look. See the first game. If you like Turkey, beat Italy in Rome. Both teams to score. Totally possible. 14-1. That's if you want a little degenerate bet on Italy or on Turkey. Sorry, Turkey to be the highest scoring team. 120-1. Again, that sort of degenerate stuff. I absolutely love Turkey as a dark horse at 60-1. Everybody picks a dark horse every year. Denmark are our official dark horse with Lunchtime, but if you can get 60-1 or above on Turkey, put your euro on it. It'll be so much fun. They've drawn with Germany 3-3. They're just a super high scoring team. It's going to be, I don't know, I think they could be sort of a fan favourite by the end of this tournament. Mr. Lunchtime argument.
They play your other dark horse, Denmark, most likely in the last 16. So at least if you pick 2 dark horses like that, you'll have one going into the quarterfinal if that works out, as long as they both go to plan and both finish second in the group. I think that Turkey-Italy bet you're given there, you might as well just throw a fiver in the bin. Down to hope winning in Rome. You just made a point of how Italy haven't lost in 3.5 years and you're tipping a team to beat them in the first game. I'm finished with you.
What we want to do here is find value. And if people like this Turkey team, and there's every reason to like it, and they're looking to have a bet on the first game of the tournament, then why not Turkey and both teams to score? They have every chance of beating this Italy team in Rome. I wouldn't be putting on the bet personally. I'll be back in Italy to win the tournament, but I just think that's a little bit overpriced for something that's completely possible.
Before we move on to Switzerland, I just want to ask you, I know that striker Yilmaz has had plenty of injury problems this season at Lille, and if anything was to happen to him, have they anything in reserve?
No. I think it's Turkey's main weakness is their starting 11 is very, very good. If Yilmaz is injured, it might be Yaziki that will push up front, but yeah, they really are Tofan, but they really don't have anything to back up Yilmaz should he get injured. And if you're relying on a 35-year-old, it's very scary. Their strength and depth at the back is surprisingly good. Their strength in attack is awful. They also, I do apologise, it won't be Tofan, it'll be Kenan Karaman. If Kenan Karaman played for Dusseldorf this year in the second division, looked like the sort of guy you do not want leading your attack. He's perfectly able to score. He's just an agent of averageness, but he's not going to win you a tournament as your dark horse. 60-1.
Yeah, I can see a reason. I just think with them that if you're to go far in this tournament, you're going to be playing 7 games, possibly extra time in the mix as well. And when you have a 10 squad, it's very hard to get very far with a 10 squad. That's just my own opinion. I could be completely wrong. I've been known to be wrong on many occasions. Very well, it's rare enough, I suppose. But that's the only thing.
I think Turkey are better than the likes of Sweden, who are priced ahead of them.
100%. I would agree with that.
So
I would agree with that.
I just like the price on Turkey, and I think they're going to be such a fun team, because if you have €2 on them at 60-1, they're going to be unbelievably fun to watch. They will be their must-see TV in this tournament. Don't let me down, Turkey, please. So next up, shall we do Wales or shall we do the Swiss?
You decide now.
So Italy are top in that group. Turkey, I believe, are coming second. Switzerland will come third, and Wales. We'll start on Wales since we got here. Ryan Giggs has 2. He's in court. He's been brought to court by two different women over sexual assault allegations and allegations of coercion. He had to be replaced. Robert Page replaced him as basically no manager. He has some managerial experience. The last one he was sacked by Nottingham a couple of years ago. He was brought in as a coach for the Wales under-21s and then fell into this job. So the book stops with disciplinarian Robert Page when it comes to Wales. So it's really rotten. It's a rotten build-up for a Welsh team who did so fantastically well in the last European Championships, reaching the semi-final and getting beaten by Portugal 2-0. So they really, really exceeded expectations that time. They've lost some players since then, though. And I think this Wales team is going to be a whipping boy in this group. And I can see them not scoring a goal in this tournament. To finish bottom of this group, they're 6-4. That's my best bet on them. Total points, you can get 0 points, 4-1, 1 point, 10-3, maybe 1 point. We'll give Wales a draw against maybe Switzerland or Turkey. Awesome. I don't know. They are. What Wales are brilliant at. They've in the last 11 games, they've only lost twice and drawn twice. They've won 7 times. 6 of those wins were 1-0. They're really, really good at doing a kind of. They would sort of remind you of Ireland with a little bit more talent. Last time Gareth Bale sort of dragged them through, and this time Bale has been on okay form. He's 11 Premier League goals, which is kind of would surprise everyone, especially if it's true. But if Bale's on top form, which we haven't seen in years, we've only seen flashes, then Wales can beat anyone on their day, because I'm sure they'll be reasonably solid at the back. And Robert Page is apparently known for sort of bringing that structure to his teams, or his under-21s teams that he had previously and in the lower leagues. So can Robert Page pull off a miracle, maybe some sort of Celtic pride that Wales power on? I don't see it. At the back, Ethan Ampadu, if he starts at the back, Joe Rodden. Neither of them have played much football this year. Rodden played 12 times in total for Tottenham. Ben Davies would have been a lovely addition there as their third centre-half or left wing-back. He's been injured almost all year. He's still injured. Nico Williams for Liverpool, the 20-year-old, won 2 games for them by scoring the only goal in 1-0 wins recently. He's going to be a nice player playing wing-back. Again, he's only 20. Roberts for Swansea on the other wing. Centre midfield, Aaron Ramsey has been useless for Juve this year. They want to get rid of him. Let me see if I have a stat on Ramsey for you. I do not. There you go. Ramsey's only I think he's made something like 18 appearances for Juve, and most of them are off the bench this year. I think he's made 8 appearances, or maybe 8 appearances as a starter, something like that. Juve want rid of him. His form has sort of fallen off a cliff. It's very sad because Ramsey and Jack Wilshere at Arsenal, I thought 6 or 7 years ago, were 2 world-class midfielders, and like for different reasons, their careers have kind of just petered out. Harry Wilson is in there, like could certainly provide a bit of spark. Lovely ball striker. as could David Brooks, who usually comes off the bench, Bournemouth, sort of talented winger, and another Bournemouth player there, Chris Meckham as well, as a cover centre half, who's played 20 odd games for Bournemouth this season. Could be useful in the back three as well. Up front, Kiefer Moore, 20 goals for Cardiff, isn't it?
Is that who he plays for? Yeah.
20 goals for Cardiff this year. He has 5 in 15 games for Wales. Sort of late bloomer in his career. He doubles as a centre half. That's all you need to know about Wales' attacking option. But he's like, I have watched a bit of him for Wales, and he's big, he's physical. What he does do is he gives the team a bit of structure. Because if you play Bale and say Wilson, or Bale and Dan James in the strike partnership, that you're kind of look all over the place. With Kiefer Moore, at least, he gives him a real presence and can hold up the ball, and it gives him a little bit more shape. Dan James and Bale will play off him. Dan James has been a big part player for United this season. Technically, he hasn't grown into the player that United would have hoped.
Just as you're going through it there, they could actually be very dangerous on the counter-attack with Bale and Dan James's pace, especially against a team like Switzerland or even Turkey. Like, you imagine with the two old boys playing at the back for Italy, that they're not going to push up on the halfway line and play a high line against Bale and Dan James, but you could see Turkey and Switzerland doing it, especially if they need a win against them. They could catch them out that way. Just as you're talking there now, that just came to me, but I could be wrong. They never appealed to me just before that as any sort of a bet for anything. Only that thing you said there for them to finish bottom of the group. I love that.
I'm extremely low on Wales, but like, they haven't given me a huge amount of reason to be. Like, performance-wise, they've still eked out the results. They've 7 wins and 2 draws in their last 11 games. They've only lost to England and Belgium in the last year. Yeah. So that's pretty good form. Maybe I'm totally wrong on Wales. And that counter-attacking threat of Bale and Dan James, as well as Callum Roberts and Nico Williams flying down the wing, maybe they can catch people out. Probably won't catch Sionchu and Demirel out. Sionchu's the fastest defender in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But who knows? Who knows? Just to repeat, Wales finished bottom 6-4. That's my best bet. Our total points 1, 10-3. We'll go with that. Talking too much here. Anything on the group so far that stands out?
No, I'm not sure what to make of Switzerland. Again, like Sweden, they kind of just turn up these tournaments and come out of a group and then go home. That's usually what they do. They've been top seeds in qualifying for a few tournaments now in the last few years. They all seem to be there, and you never seem to know nothing about them, but they always seem to cause a shock or two, shall we say. I know in the World Cup, I think they were in Brazil's group, and they ran Brazil very close to it. I think it was in the last minute Brazil beat them. They're always usually very solid anyways, and they're always the team. They usually seem to get out of groups. I don't know what you think of them, so I'll let you take it away there.
Yeah, this is really painful stuff, but I'm going to be caught again by Switzerland in saying that Switzerland are going to come third in this group. Because every single tournament that I watch Switzerland going into, I'm sort of not. They don't interest me hugely, and then I underrate them. FIFA doesn't. They're constantly in the FIFA top 10 or there or thereabouts. At the moment, they're 16th, so like really, really strong. Obviously, the FIFA World Rankings doesn't mean a fuck, but it like they do maintain a strong position, and that's on the back of their results. Vladimir Petkovic, their coach, is going on almost a decade now since he joined. This will be his last tournament. Maybe they might pull out one for him. In goals, Jan Sommer, huge liability at the back. I know he starts for Borussia Mönchengladbach, but he's not getting better when he's going into his 32nd year, because he wasn't before. They have some superstars at the back, international wise now. I say superstars. Elvedi, who plays for Borussia Mönchengladbach, you could see him get a Premier League move this year at centre half. Akanji, who plays for Dortmund, really technically good ball player.
Back from injury, he is.
Yeah. If he's fit, as well as they might throw in Fabian Schär as well as their third centre half. Again, really technically good on the ball. Can have a shot as a couple of like he's a goal scoring option from outside the box. But yeah, technically brilliant centre halves, and they'll play 3. On the right wing, they'll play Mbabu from Wolfsburg. He's had quite an average season, but a decent wing-back playing at a good level in the Bundesliga. Ricardo Rodriguez is 20. Is he 26 or 27 years of age? He's been playing international football for the last 10 years. He'll be at left back. He'll take penalties. If you're looking for an outside bet, Ricardo Rodriguez to be Switzerland's top scorer with 16-1. I think that's a really tasty bet. 2 penalties in the tournament might be enough, and 1 might be enough. I think when going into tournaments, people always like to bet positive when it comes to goal tallies, and there's every chance that, especially a group like this, Italy-Turkey first game could be 1-1 or 1-0 Italy. Second game, or Wales-Switzerland could easily be 0-0 in the first game. Then they go to Rome to play Italy, where they could lose maybe 1-0, and then finally they play their first and third game. In the third game, they play Turkey in Baku, which is going to be a winner takes all. So Baku and Azerbaijan and Rome are the 2 host cities here. Back to the team. Centre midfield, they look unbelievably strong. Zakaria, who has had a horrendous season when it's come to injuries, is another Borussia Mönchengladbach player, is an absolute talent in the middle of midfield. This will be his chance to finally get that big Premier League move, sort of a Wilfred Ndidi character at Leicester. But yeah, if United can't afford Declan Rice, he could be an option for a big move to a Premier League club this summer. Granit Xhaka is still there. It's so hard to rate Granit Xhaka because some of the things he does look really, really good, and then sometimes he looks just so average, and he seems like a bit of a simpleton as well. But like Xhaka is their third best centre midfielder. They also have Rimu Freuler. Now Freuler was the rock at the heart of the Atalanta midfield, who've been in the Champions League the last 3 years, and he's ever present in that team. He's absolutely class. Brilliant engine, decent eye for goal as well. 3 goals this season for Atalanta. Up front, it gets pretty nasty. Whatever's left of the fridge/human being that is Xherdan Shaqiri. So I don't know. He's flattered to deceive everywhere apart from Stoke. So yeah, maybe this is Shaqiri's time to shine. He's still not old.
He usually performs well for Switzerland though. He's their go-to man. Everything is built around him, and he does usually. I remember in the World Cup he was very, very good. I remember when he scored, was it in the last group game when they knocked Serbia out? He originates from, I think he's a Kosovo, and he nearly caused another war there with his celebrations after that goal.
I remember the symbol.
Yeah.
Of the eagle.
But no, he usually is, to give him his due, he usually does. He's kind of like he's their like leader, and everything goes through him. And if he plays well, they usually perform. They did qualify.
He'll play number 10, and like it is likely everything will go through him, and he is not afraid to shoot. So maybe a shot's on target for him, 2 per game. I wouldn't be one bit surprised because he will be greedy when it comes to that. Do you want to add to that, Lunchy?
It's just coming to me. I'm nearly certain. I'm not 100% on this now, but I think they were in Ireland's group in qualifying with Denmark. That's going back 2019 now, the qualifiers for this tournament. I think it was Ireland, Denmark, and Switzerland. They were
2-0 in Dublin.
They were way more impressive to me now in that group than Denmark were. And I remember they went to Denmark the night Ireland were in Georgia, and they literally battered Denmark for 90 minutes, and Denmark got a late equaliser.
I know I'm wrong on Switzerland. I just know Switzerland are going to be 10 better than I think.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I think they're going to come third. I think it's a tough group for them, like Italy and Turkey. I do think they're going to come third. And third in this group is like a death sentence because you're going to be playing, presuming Belgium top the group, you have a chance of playing either Belgium or the top team in Germany, France, or Portugal. So third in this is, I don't know. It's no. There's no reward for it anyways. So, yeah, I think...
God help, say if it's France who draw Switzerland as their third place team. That would be so rotten because Switzerland are well capable of putting it up to anybody. All their players play for
Yeah, they
Almost
do,
all
but
the
it's very
players
top leagues.
play for top Bundesliga teams. For example, the players I didn't mention here, like Goranovic has 17 goals. He's a striking option. He scored 2 against Germany when they drew 3-3 a couple of months ago. Gibril So is injured at the minute, but he plays with Zakaria in centre midfield for Borussia Mönchengladbach. He is a class act, but he's injured until July. Ruben Vargas plays for Augsburg. He has 6 goals and 3 assists, left winger this season. He could definitely feature. And Stefan Zuber, who I think scored against Ireland back then, plays in midfield for Eintracht Frankfurt. And for Switzerland, he has something like 8 in 30 games from the middle of midfield. So they're pretty stacked when it comes to like good, decent level talent or high level talent when it comes to international teams. Up front is where they really. Breland Bolo is a sack of shit. He's been everywhere he's gone. He's totally flattered to deceive. But he came in with such high hopes at the beginning of his career. Schalke signed him. I watched him play. I was just amazed how disinterested he looked, just sort of sauntering around the pitch, complaining and stuff. And yeah, he has 5 goals in 41 games for Switzerland. And this season for Mönchengladbach, he has 5 in 31. I can't believe they played him 31 times.
He reminds me of Shane Long, that he works hard and all that, but he can't finish.
He's not as good as Shane Long.
Yeah.
I put my foot down. Nowhere near as good as Shane Long. He's worse in the air than Shane Long. He's a worse hold-up player. He's not as fast as Shane Long. He just Breland Bolo is totally overrated. Who isn't overrated? Who might be able to carry it for them is Haris Seferovic, who kind of fell apart in his career, went to Benfica this year. He's 22 goals and 7 assists in 30 games for Benfica. He has totally found his form. Another guy that scored against Ireland. Maybe we did this. I'm pretty sure that was true. But yes, Seferovic could be the man. They look unbelievably strong in midfield, and they look good at the back. They have a very experienced coach. In goal, Jan Sommer wouldn't fill me with any confidence, and up front, it might have to be Seferovic, and that mightn't be enough. So Switzerland are coming third for me. Every chance of shocking and winning this group, but still third for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think 13 to 8 on them to come third is quite a good price.
Yeah, and I love Ricardo Rodriguez, top scorer, in what could be a low-scoring group, possibly. Then why not Ricardo Rodriguez to get a penalty or two, 16-1, penalty expert. If you really do like Switzerland, they're 6-5 to beat Wales in the first game in Azerbaijan.
Yeah, I like that.
Now, also Wales are almost coming in. They're about 14-5, 12-5 sort of thing. So that first, like the draw is 2-1. So that just shows the bookies having a clue what's going to happen in that first game.
The prices will start moving it.
Start off well.
I think it's very important. Like which 3 teams coming out of the group, if you can win one of your first 2 games, you're nearly guaranteed to come out of the group. We saw that with Ireland in Euro 2016. They drew with Sweden in the first game, and that point kept them in the group even though they were hammered by Belgium. And then Italy put out a reserve team in the third game, and Ireland beat them 1-0, and they got out of the group in 4th place and went 1-0 up in France, and it looked like holding on for a long time before France won 2-1. But anyways, that's beside the point. The first game, the most important thing is do not lose your first game. You're still in with a chance going into the final game, because even your final game on paper might look scary if you're playing Italy, Belgium, France, England, whoever. But they could be already through with 6 points, have the group topped, and they're going to put out their reserves. I know some of these teams, their reserves are just as good as what's on the pitch, but it gives you that chance. Like you're a solid international team coming up with, like say it's Switzerland, say they were to play Italy, who are already through. I don't know actually the fixtures. Did they play Italy third or second? But if they were to play Italy,
they play Italy second in a row, Wales first.
Second, that's different. That actually brings Wales into it in a funny way, because if Wales can get a draw in the first game with Switzerland, and say Italy were to win the first 2 games, Wales would need probably to beat Italy in the third game, whereas Italy would already have the group topped. You wouldn't imagine they'd put out a full-strength team. So that's just one thing to keep in mind as the tournament goes on. As long as if you back a team to get out of the group, if they draw the first game, you're in it going into the third game. with 3 teams coming out of the 4. I think that's everything on that group, Conal, is it? Or is there anything more you want to add?
Absolutely not. I spoke way too much there. I think what you said about the first game is so vital. If you win in the first game, you're in. You're sorted. I think 3 points will be enough to get you to third place. Because it's 4 of the 6 third place teams' goals. So, one win, definitely a win and a draw. You'll be in the mixer for a third place playoff. So that first game is all important. Not losing it keeps your tournament hopes alive. I could be totally wrong on this group. I think these teams are. Turkey have a very high ceiling. Switzerland are unbelievably consistent. Like, they're consistently good, always. They're always hard to beat, and they have Turkey and Switzerland both have serious quality players. Wales seem to be the most lacking in this group. Then they've proven over time. But again, we're going to go against Wales because they have a totally unproven coach in Robert Page. They look to be in a little bit of disarray coming in. They're not as strong as they were in 2016, and they really lack a goal scorer.
Yeah.
Let's go Group F.
The group of deaths.
Lovely.
Germany, France, Portugal, and Hungary, who are very unlucky to have landed in this group because they are one of the most improved teams in world football.
With Hungary, I just think they're so unfortunate. In any other group, they'd be thinking, we're getting to the quarterfinals here. We're going to get to that.
100%. Since they qualified through the Nations League because they finished 4th behind Croatia, Wales, and Slovakia in their qualifying group. But because they did so well in the lower divisions of the Nations League, they got the semi-final, similar to Slovakia. But since September 2018, they've beaten Greece, Estonia, Finland, Croatia, Wales, Azerbaijan, Iceland, and Turkey at home. They've drawn with Serbia and Poland at home, and they've lost to Slovakia now 2-1 at home. They had 10 men for that game, and they lost 3-2 to Russia at home, and they lost a friendly 2-1 to Uruguay at home. So the common denominator there is they've scored in every single one of them 13 games in Budapest, and they have 2 games in Budapest against Portugal.
How do those 2 games lie?
So, I didn't hear you there, Conor.
Those 2 games, their first game is at home, isn't it?
It is, yeah. The first 2 games are at home. So they have Portugal first and then France. Since September alone, they beat Turkey at home and away without conceding. Lost to Russia 3-2 in their only defeat in the last 11 games. It's just such solid form. They started the World Cup qualifiers with 2 wins and a 3-3 draw at home to Poland. This group is all about Germany, Portugal, and France. I have a very sneaky suspicion these are going to take at least a point off one of them. And I think the big game, I really like Portugal. I think these are the team that are going to screw Portugal over. That first game in Budapest, they're going to go after it. And I can see them taking a point off Portugal. Portugal are a serious side. But the one thing about Portugal, and we'll touch on this later when we go into them in more depth, is for all the attacking talent they have, they're set up defensively and they do struggle to break down teams. And Hungary, there's just something about them. Just they attack. They don't really have any stars like they have. Roland Salai plays for Freiburg, and they have a few more playing in the Bundesliga with Wilde Orban. He plays centre half for Leipzig, and another ally guy. He plays for Mainz. Guy playing with Fernand
as well. The Leipzig keeper, who's a serious keeper.
Exactly. And they have a few lads spread out. There's a guy who plays for Bristol City. He's Adam Nasty. Or Nagy, sorry, not Nasty.
Call him Nasty.
Yeah. He keeps the midfield together, and I just have a feeling they're going to shock one of the teams. I don't know, they just to score over 2.5 goals. This is the bet with Hungary for me. To score 3 goals in the group, they're 5-4.
What?
I'm not
going near that.
I think a goal scoring team. This group is going to be chaos. I think Portugal, we'll talk about them, I suppose. That's enough about Poland. But Portugal, I think, have nearly, like France, since the time France won the World Cup to the last World Cup, that kind of 16 years, nearly have too many options. They have literally 2 players for every position. And I think it's going to be very hard for the coach to keep them all happy. It's a tough group. They travel to Hungary to play Hungary. Following week, they go to Germany to play in Munich. And then they go back to Hungary to play France. It's a tough schedule in the space of a week, 10 days. I'm going to go out here and say that Portugal are going to be the fall guys in this group. I think they're going to get a draw against. I think Hungary are going to take 2 points off them, and that's going to do Portugal over. They have all the stars on paper. I really, really liked Portugal, and it's just I've been reading up on them recently, and there's just something about them. They're like, I don't know. They didn't even top their group in qualifying for this tournament. Like, and it's just, I know they've won they're the Nations League holders and they're the European Cup winners at the moment. They're the holders of this tournament as well. It's just something about them. There's something put me off in the back of my head, and I did love them. And when they were 14-1, I was going to back them, but I've just gone off them in the last week, and maybe I'm just stupid, or I don't know. Slight worry I have with Portugal is like they've done well recently, and they don't really lose games, but the 3 games they've had against top tier teams, they've played France twice and Spain once. They didn't score in any of the 3 games. The other side of that is where they're strong, is at the back. They only conceded 1 goal, but they weren't able to beat the top teams. And to come out of this group, they're going to have to beat one of Germany or France, and like they have to play Germany in Munich, and they have to then go to France 3 days later to play France in Baku, or in not Baku, but Budapest. And I think they're going to. I just think they're going to get cut out. I think the schedule doesn't suit. I think it's tough. They've the toughest draw out of all the teams in the group with the way the fixtures have fallen. No, I could be wrong. Obviously, if they beat Hungary, they'll come out of the group in 3rd place at worst. But I think they're going to bomb out this tournament. There's every single tournament we go in, we talk about all these teams that can win a tournament. There's always one team of the top teams that bombs out, and everybody seems to think it's going to be Germany. I think it's going to be Portugal. That's just.
Portugal were my bet. They were between 16-1 and 14-1 a couple of months ago. Then it was declared that the whole tournament would be in England, and Portugal were put into 9-1. And now it's gone back to the original format where it's going to be played all over the place, and Portugal are out to 10-1. So I don't understand. At 14-1, they were a bet because they have such unbelievable quality. Tournaments are usually won by grinders, and it's usually looks pretty crap. And Portugal are absolutely made to grind teams to the bone. Really solid back four in Cancelo, Ruben Diaz, Pepe, and Guerrero. An absolutely brilliant keeper on the international level in Rui Patricio. And
he's not in the squad.
Really?
No, it's Lopez from Lyon in goals, and he's also. This is what I mean about they have too many options. He started playing the left back from. In their last 3 games, they've played the left back from Sporting Lisbon. What is his name? Nuno Mendes. So he's played 3 of the last 4 games ahead of Guerrero. They have on the right side, they have a choice between Cancelo and Semedo. Like they have Diaz and Pepe and Fonte at the back. Like it all sounds unbelievable in paper. Midfield, Neves, Moutinho, Renato Sanchez, Bernardo Silva, Willy Carvalho, Pedro Conclales, Bruno Fernandes, and then Ronaldo, Jota, João Felix, and Rafa Silva up front. Sounds amazing. But they were a way worse team the last time they went to this Euros. They were like the players they had. I know they had a peak Ronaldo that time, but they were a way worse team. And I think that it's just my think they're going to bomb out. This might sound stupid when they lift the trophy, but I'm going to go for them to bomb out.
On that side, it's not inconceivable that they draw with a really strong Hungary. Hungary aren't really strong, but they're very plucky at least in their first game. And Hungary are shown they're well able to get results against the big teams, especially at home. Like a 1-1 draw, and they'll all draw in that first game. Then 1 draw from the next 2 games. I could see them going out with 2 points. It could be possible. Now I don't. I think they will do enough. I think I have a feeling they'll get 3 points in 3 draws and get out of the group. If they can win that first game, that's what it's all about with Portugal. I do think it's very hard to get a system together if you have Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, all trying to fit, and Pedro Neto, all trying to fit them into the same team with João Felix. It's canny. But yeah, if they can somehow get a group together, like, because they can only play probably 3 of them, because they're going to have to play at least one holding midfielder, likely Neves, I would imagine, but they could go.
He seems to love Moutinho. He seems to always play Moutinho. They also have Willy Carvalho and Daniel Pereira from PSG. No, they're like, obviously they're Portugal. They have an unbelievable. We all know their players. Like, it's unbelievable. The bet for Portugal, I think, is Jota to be their top goal scorer, 10-3. He has scored 6 goals in his last. He started all their last few games, their big games. He scored 6 goals in his last 12 games for them. Coming in off the left, Ronaldo takes obviously all the watching. Like I think he's the guy that will score the goals, and that's my best Portugal bet, apart from them to go out in the group stage. It's just the way the fixtures have fallen for them, like in comparison to Germany, who start off with France and then Portugal, but they're nearly guaranteed the 3 points to get out of the group in their last game, because they play a Hungary side who have just battled out with France and Portugal, and then they have to at home, and then they have to travel to Munich to play Germany, who are based in Munich for the whole lot of this tournament, for their open group game. And I just think that gets Germany out of the group, that they have them last. Just the way the fixtures have fallen, I don't think they've fallen kindly for Portugal.
It's the feature of this tournament, isn't it? That if you if the tournament is in one place, like if it's in Ukraine or if it was in Baku this time, or Spain, it's unfair for one team. Like, one team has an unfair advantage. Say Spain playing at home if it was in Spain, or England if it had gone ahead in England. Now it's unfair. It seems to be mostly on the smaller teams, because the likes of Italy get to play. They're the only team that will play at home in that group. The rest will play in Azerbaijan. England could go through a situation where they play all their games at home, apart from, I think, quarterfinal or last 16. Yeah. But depending on fixtures, England could play the majority of their games at home as well. So it's seriously unbalanced towards certain teams, and that's something people have to take into account before they bet.
It's the travel thing, Conal. It's like it's very unfair on Portugal that. So Germany play in Munich against France in the first game, could go either way. Most likely draw, I'd say. So then the next day, Portugal then at the same time play in Budapest. Now, I know it's not that far from Budapest to Munich or whatever, but then they have to fly to Munich, settle in for the night, whereas Germany are back in their hotel, in a routine. They're in their home country. They go out to play the game 2 days later. Then Portugal have to fly back again to Budapest to play France, who have been settled in France, or in Budapest from their second game. You know, they've been there for 4 or 5 days already. It's just a lot of travel and all that taken into account. I just think the fixtures have just gone totally against them.
It's really nasty. Like, do you want to talk to me a little bit about Germany? I think Joachim Löw is the luckiest man in. Actually, there are a couple of awful managers in this tournament that truly shouldn't be there. One is De Boer for Holland. I think he just because he's there takes Holland out of the reckoning for me. Southgate for England is like somebody they brought in on an internship, and then he's accidentally an international manager now. He just takes England out of the reckoning for me. But what Joachim Löw for Germany, I think, has been consistently shit. And as a Germany coach, now they have won tournaments with him, almost in spite of him, especially that World Cup at home. But I think he's done very poorly with an extraordinary group of players. How do you see
He has, but he still went to Brazil and won a World Cup with them in Brazil with an extraordinary bunch of players. You know, like you can have how many international teams? Look at Brazil; they have an extraordinary team every single World Cup, you could say, but they don't win them all. Like, he still went to Brazil with Germany, beat Brazil's, or that wasn't a good Brazil team, still beat them, and still they won the final. Fair enough. Like, they still went to Brazil and won a World Cup with him as manager. So, like, I think he's lost a lot of his aura in the last few years. Big thing for me is he has swallowed his pride, which is a good thing in any manager, I think, in that 2 years ago he got rid of Hummels and Muller. The two of them have had brilliant seasons for Dortmund and Munich, and he's brought them back into the fold. They add that bit of experience to a squad. Like, the squad is deep. Like, everybody's writing them off. Like, recent form hasn't been great. They've 3 games at home. They'll win the last game against Hungary and Munich, and they'll get out of the group. Worst case scenario. But, like, they have Neuer in goals. They've Hummels, Rudiger, Sula, Halstenberg, Robin Gosens in defence. Like, the midfield, Toni Kroos, Gundogan, Goretzka, and Kimmich. Like, teams just don't have that. They also have the young lad from Bayern Munich, Jamal Musiala. He's made the squad. And then up top, they can choose between Sané, Gnabry, Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, and Kevin Volland, who scored 16 goals for Monaco this year, and Muller. So, like, the old saying, never write off the Germans. Now, one worry I have is they lost their last World Cup qualifier at home to Macedonia, which is mental. Prior to that, they had they'd lost 6-0 in Spain this time last year, just after lockdown. Bounced back with simple wins over Iceland and Romania. Before that,
World Cup 2018.
Yeah, they bombed out as well at that time. It's just, again, it's the big thing for me is they've all 3 games at home. I would not, like, it's the old saying, don't write off the Germans. I will not write them off. I think that squad, they have so many attacking options, proven players, proven international players. The midfield, like, when you look at it, Goretzka, Kimmich, Gundogan, and Toni Kroos, like Portugal are stacked, France are stacked. But if anything was to happen to Kante for France, they're goosed in the middle of the pitch. Like, their replacements are Sissoko. Anything happens to Kroos, Gundogan is their Goretzka, Kimmich. Like, they just have so many options. Like, they're solid. Hummels and Rudiger as centre halves, Manuel Neuer in goal, Gosens from Atalanta running down the wings. I just think they're very solid, and I'm not going to write them off. I'm not saying they're going to win the tournament. I'm not going to say they're going to go deep.
I love, like, Robin Gosens for Atalanta. I think player to watch for Germany, definitely.
Definitely.
He's extraordinary as a left back. His energy and pace. He has that Gasperini Atalanta inspired. He's in the box more so than the strikers sometimes. But he just still manages to get back and defend well. He's definitely one to watch. Any bets that stood out for Germany?
To be honest, Conor, the only one I was looking at is they play Werner up front. I know he's a joke. We talked about this in last week's podcast. But he does create chances. Even in the Champions League final, he had 2 brilliant chances in the first 10 minutes. And either him or Serge Gnabry to be their top goal scorer, I think. I like these top goal scorer bets for teams. I don't know where they're going to go. I need to look deeper into them. I kind of want to look at how their route plans, what positions they'd finish in the group and all that, look more in depth into it before I put them up for anything. Maybe on our next podcast I'll throw in some bet for them, but at this moment I've no bet for them. I'm not writing them off, but I think they're a team that anyone who wants to win this tournament is, if they want to win, they're going to have to beat them. I don't think they'll win it, but I think they'll go deep. I don't know how deep, but I think they're themselves and France are certainties out of this group. France are just a machine. We'll talk about them next. But
I'm going to go against you here. I think Germany won't go any deeper than your jeans pocket. They just absolute ineptitude at coach. They lost faith in him 2 years ago after the last tournament. He's filling out his contract here. I think they have unbelievable talent and very little cohesion. They are like Werner. They're not going to play. They might have to play Werner up front on his own, with Havertz playing off him. In a midfield 3 of Gundogan, Kimmich, and Goretzka sounds really nice. but I don't see Germany. I can see Germany being the first major casualty of this tournament, and a strong possibility that even though everything is in their favour, they will probably go out in the last 16, or they might have enough to get through this group, but then as the third place team, and then go out in the last 16 for me.
Well, if the third place team in this group travels to Wembley, most likely to play England, the top team will play a third place team from another group. So I am going to go with Germany to, they're going to finish first or second. It's very hard to look past France not top in the group. I don't know. I need more time. I'm not going to give any prediction on that for the moment. We'll move on to France, but we've been talking for long enough now. The big thing for me, they're obvious contenders, pushing England for favouritism. They're around 4.5 to 1, 5 to 1. World Cup champions. Since a 2-0 defeat in 2019, I think it was against Turkey, they've played 16 competitive games. They lost 0. Now, they've lost a friendly to Finland when they put out a reserve team. Last November, they didn't have any Mbappe, Griezmann, Kante, Lloris, Varane, Theo Hernandez, or Pavard. So, forget about that. They're just so solid. Bit for a team that have so many options in naming a squad, a very difficult squad to name. They're a bit light should anything happen in the middle of the pitch, as we were saying there, they'll play Pogba and Kante. But sure, should anything happen, right? They have Tolisso from Bayern Munich. I don't know if has he played that much this year for Bayern Munich.
Big part player.
Yeah, and then you're looking at Moussa Sissoko and Rabiot. It's not what you'd expect from the world champions.
They are an injury away from being Switzerland in midfield.
They are. The big thing for me is they brought Benzema back. I don't personally understand it, why he's waited to now to bring him back 3 weeks before the Euros. But if everything goes well behind the scenes, they're very hard to look past for the tournament. They have Mbappe, they have Griezmann, they have Benzema now. That's 3, as your front 3, that's pretty amazing. We know they're solid at the back. They have Varane and Pavard, Hernandez. Will probably play the part of PSG captain Kimpembe.
Koundé.
Yeah, I don't think he's in the squad. I'm not sure he is.
He is, I think, but I might have to check. But again,
he's named 7 forwards in the squad. So he's named the 3 we mentioned. He's named Ben Yedder, he's named Dembele from Barcelona, Kingsley Coman, Giroud, and Thuram from Mönchengladbach. So he's gone heavy on attacking players. He obviously trusts his defence, as you'd imagine he did. They're solid. First games with Germany and Munich. Very hard to know what will happen in that. They're 17 to 10 to top the group. For anyone who fancies, it's not for me, but for anyone who fancies the quadcast in this group, France to finish first, Germany second, Portugal third, and Hungary fourth. I don't think that will happen, but that is 9 to 2, 5 to 1 in places for anyone who likes that in this group.
I like that. I like that as a price. I wouldn't back it personally. France, as I wrote about this scene, it's very, very strange bringing Benzema back in to a squad that's unbelievably settled. Benzema 6 years ago, this is all allegedly, he's standing trial in October. He approached Mathieu Valbuena to say that there was a sex tape about him, and that Valbuena was also approached by criminals who wanted to extort money from him so that they wouldn't release the sex tape. They said it's the only copy, and Valbuena was visible in it. Benzema apparently approached Valbuena to try to encourage him. There are transcripts online. They should be in any of the major newspapers if you Google it, between Benzema and one of the criminals and they're absolutely damning. So it is a bit scary considering Mathieu Valbuena came up and would have played with the vast majority of the players in this squad. It's weird. And also, why bring him back in? and then name, you know, Marcus Toura and Wassim Ben Yedder, because those guys will not be playing now. It's a bit weird. If it works, Benzema is absolutely incredible as a soccer player. One of the most underrated forwards in Europe for the last decade. Again, this season he has 20 plus goals. He's been absolutely brilliant. If it clicks, him, Griezmann, Mbappe is completely terrifying for any team.
Yeah. So
France, sorry, just to finish, Lunty, France to reach the final is 11-4. France to win the tournament is 5-1. I think they'll make it to the semi-final. Possible finalists, but I like them for the semi-final. And if you like them for the final, you're getting almost 3-1 for them to reach the final. So,
yeah. I'm going to put my head on the block before we go, and I'm going to say Germany are going to top this group. And as Eamon, don't fear to, I'll throw the pen and wind it up with that.
Mr. Lunchtime, that was an absolute marathon. I think we better make. We'll be back in 2 or 3 days' time with the last 3 groups. Thanks so much for staying with us. It was amazing, Mr. Lunchtime, as ever.
Cheers, Biggie. Bye bye.
Thank you, my friend. Bye bye.